Welcome back to Movies TV Mad, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Sunday's edition of the Doctor Who Daily. Let's talk about Dalek, shall we? One of the funny things about Dalek, actually, when I think back to it, is that Van Stanton is my favourite character from that episode, and because the actor had a little goatee, I actually thought he was the Master, and he just hadn't revealed himself to the Doctor yet. I was waiting the whole episode for him to say, hey, I'm the Master. That actor would have made a great Master, but I think people would have lost their shit over an American version of the Master. But the Master wasn't to be revealed for quite a few years. I like the way RTD took his time with that character, even denying in season 1 that he'd ever use him because he was just a cackling villain. That was funny, but he made him more than that, of course, with John Sim. There's a few RTD in the RTD era because RTD didn't actually write Dalek. Was it Robert Sherman who wrote it? What a great piece of storytelling and writing and television Dalek is. But there's 2 episodes in season 1 I adore. Dalek and Father's Day, they're just so good because they've really got great storylines. I think Dalek is about the Doctor, and Father's Day clearly is about Rose and about fathers and daughters and all that kind of stuff, and I think it's great. I will review Father's Day as well. I've done it before on this channel, I'm sure, but we'll do it again. Like we enjoy re-watching this stuff, we should be able to re-talk about this stuff and find other nuances about these great pieces of television. Dalek's brilliant because it really does revolve around the Time War, really, and what the Doctor had to do. He hates them. He physically hates the Daleks, and I just love that first scene between Eccleston and that Dalek. He hates that Dalek because of what it represents. But through the story, they humanise that Dalek because that Dalek is in the same position as the Doctor. As far as the Doctor's concerned, he's the last Time Lord. He can never go back to Gallifrey. He's on his own. Yeah, he can travel with Rose, but he's lost his people. He had a family on Gallifrey, as he refers to, and he lost all of that. And this Dalek is trying to send out a beacon to the rest of the Daleks. But at that moment in time, as far as the story is, and at that point, the Dalek, the Doctor, we all think there's no more Daleks left, just like there's no more Time Lords left. So it's a fascinating thing, because I think when we go back to pre the revival, I don't think the Doctor had such hatred for the Daleks. He didn't approve of them, but what RTD sets up with this script through Robert Sherman, this absolutely brilliant script, is the Doctor's hatred of the Daleks. He absolutely despises them. And it's great. So Van Stanton is like, I suppose, the collector in the MCU. He's collecting all this alien tech. He even claims he owns the internet. Now this is set in the future, in an alien museum. What's great about this episode, you don't have to spend that much money on it, although they still would have spent a bit of money on it. The setup. The choreography in this, actually having the Dalek kind of right. I love that when that guy, what's his, played by Bruno Langley, who's a bit of a disgraced actor now, by the way, when he goes, oh what, a pepper pot is phased by a flight of stairs, and it's just so funny and brilliant when the Dalek goes, F you, I'm just going to elevate. I love that. I just think that's brilliant, that this human being thinks they've fucked this alien up. Because the Dalek can elevate, and that's great. As a kid watching the Daleks, I wasn't that into them because they just didn't come across that menacing to me. And I think what the revival did was make them so much more menacing, and actually make the concept of the Daleks so much more understandable. Because the Daleks, I suppose, are like the Nazis. They want to cleanse the universe of anything that's not Dalek. I never understood that before. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was so young when I was watching Doctor Who and I didn't understand everything that was being shot at me. But what the RTD era did and to a lesser extent the Moffat era. I don't think Moffat really knew how to deal with the Daleks. Moffat was more into his own creatures. He created some brilliant creatures, the Silence being the best creation probably anyone's ever come up with in Doctor Who history. I think the Silence are great, by the way. They're a fantastic concept. I think they're better than the Weeping Angels. As far as I'm concerned, the Weeping Angels isn't something I really got into that much. I like Blink, but I wasn't blinded by Blink as the best episode of Doctor Who ever, or the most scariest. I think Midnight is much more frightening in its concept than what they do to the Doctor. And let's not forget that Blink is not even a Doctor episode. It's a Doctor Light episode, handled really, really well. But I think this episode, Dalek, just shows how powerful they are. When the Doctor's been strapped to that board, and you know, he's saying, you know, basically all the people are already dead because you've allowed this Dalek basically access to the internet, to the computer. That's it. That's how clever they are. And I never really understood that about the Daleks growing up in the classic era. And I understand it a lot more thanks to the revival. Maybe it's the simplistic way in the writing where they wanted children to understand how menacing the Daleks are. But really, the nuance, the narrative of this episode is about what the Doctor had to do in the Time War. And we see the Doctor about to kill the Dalek. And Rose holds him to account. She says, "What are you doing? You don't understand, Rose," you know, and he tries to explain what a threat the Dalek is. But you're not, you know, he's not the one pointing the gun. So Rose hasn't experienced the history with the Daleks that the Doctor has. The Doctor fought a fucking Time War. Rose didn't. She can only really perceive what she's seeing here and then. But she's got a point. She sees the Doctor becoming something very dark and very dangerous. She doesn't like what this situation is doing to the Doctor. And I love that. And I love the fact that Rose touches the Dalek and she has this kind of connection. By Rose touching the Dalek, it makes the Dalek a little bit more human. It revives the Dalek. So again, Robert Sherman, who I think has written a bit of Big Finish as well, not an expert on Big Finish, by the way, but I think he has. He's a really good writer. I'm actually surprised that Robert Sherman didn't recur as a writer in the Doctor Who revival and do a lot more. Because as I say, that Dalek episode is some of the sharpest piece of writing in Doctor Who live action history. I think it's amazing. I really do. It's a great episode, and the themes. It's definitely, I think, the best Dalek episode in the revival. I don't think they ever did the Daleks so well. But RTD loved the Daleks. And Julie Gardner loved the Daleks. So, but I think he had a good, I think Davies had a better handle on the Daleks. A better handle on the Daleks than Moffat and even Chibnall. Now, lots of people think that Chibnall's version of the Daleks is much better. I don't agree. I'm not saying I hate what Chibnall. I probably prefer what Chibnall did to what Moffat did. I mean, Moffat pretty much saying the Daleks forgot who the Doctor was. That pretty much, you know, is futile. The whole point is that the Daleks know who the Doctor is and they know that the Doctor's a threat. And that kind of one-upmanship between the Doctor and the Daleks. If you lose that, if the Daleks forget about the Doctor, what's the actual point? But I like that Capaldi episode when they go into the Dalek. I think that's quite a good episode. But I think that Dalek really, really did something special. It created this new modern day Dalek, and it was great, and it made them a true threat, because we go from Dalek to the two-parter at the end of the first season. You know, Eccleston's final 2 episodes. So it kind of continued from that, and they've been setting up all this time with the game station. So you believe, because of that, you believe that these Daleks are very intelligent, very hateful. And it's a great final battle between the Doctor and the Daleks. And it works. And ultimately, if not for Rose, the Doctor is screwed. Mankind is screwed. Humanity is screwed. In fact, the universe is screwed. So it's brilliant. And the way Davies uses that whole Bad Wolf situation, the arc that he set up at the beginning. And I've mentioned it before. Having a worded story arc, which means you don't need to focus lots of episodes on it, like Moffat did, and a lot of people didn't like the fact that Moffat's story arcs took so much time out of the standalone stories. I don't mind it. I like that kind of thing. I like mystery box. It interests me. I suppose Bad Wolf was a kind of a mystery box because we didn't even know who or what Bad Wolf was till that final third act of The Parting of the Ways, and it's great. But really, it's all being set up in the Dalek episode, and that's what I like. But the best thing about Dalek is what it does to the Doctor. It's not the fact that the Dalek's going around killing people, it's the fact that the Doctor has a history with the Daleks, and there's this one Dalek left, and it becomes a threat because a human being doesn't get it, but the Doctor does. Humans want to collect things, and I think that's another great element of Robert Sherman's script. He shows the futility of what we do as humans. We want to discover things, we want to collect things, we want to use them to our advantage. And if you look at our history as a human race, that always ends up badly, doesn't it? Most pieces of technology that we've created always end up badly. Look at the internet, look at the negatives. People have actually died because of the internet. You know, children get groomed on the internet because of the internet. You know, these monsters use the internet for that element. So our technology, in the end, is always used for dark deeds. And I think a portion of Robert Sherman's script is trying to show what human beings do. I think that's very interesting, by the way. So as I say, it's a really, really good script, and it's a Doctor story. It's a Doctor Dalek story, but unlike the past, this is a personal Doctor Dalek story. The fact that the Doctor absolutely hates their guts is brilliant, because it makes it more valid. It makes it, as an audience member, as a viewer, it makes it a more emotional journey within the episode to watch, rather than just saying, right, it's the Doctor versus the Daleks, the Doctor's going to win in the end, and that's that. I'm not saying Classic Who never did some great Dalek episodes with a great personal story between the Doctor and the Daleks. I'm saying that the way Robert Sherman did it and the way Davies perceived the relationship between the Doctor and the Daleks, it's a more personal relationship. It's a more personal hero versus enemy. There's a hatred there. Both, and the Daleks in the revival hate the Doctor as much as the Doctor hates the Daleks. So I think that Davies got it, and he created something utterly special. But, you know, kudos and absolute respect to Robert Sherman, because he really does something special as well. Because this is a Doctor story, this is a personal Doctor story, but what I think he does really well, because I've seen a lot of writers in the revival leave either the Doctor or the companion of their episodes on the doorstep. But I think what Sherman does here, he involves Rose as much as the Doctor, especially with, you know, Rose touching the Dalek and reviving the Dalek. That's an important element of the episode. So it basically makes Rose as important as the companion, as the Doctor is, rather than saying this is the Doctor's story, let's just leave her behind. Sherman doesn't do this, and this is something that RTD probably would have made clear to Sherman. I want the companion to be involved in these adventures, in this story. I don't want Rose just to be kind of an extra in any of these episodes, even if they're more about kind of the arc of the Doctor in the Time War. You know, Rose has still got to have a big influence in this episode, and these episodes, all the RTD episodes that he was running the show. And I think that's what's really special about RTD. He knows how to humanise people, how to humanise the Doctor, but also RTD was never afraid to take the Doctor to very, very dark places. This has been the Doctor Who Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please hit that notification bell so you never miss this perfection. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Please like and share and comment. And I'll see you tomorrow for even more Doctor Who Daily. Until then, goodbye.